All right, joining for game 3 of the medium games semifinals, Andy versus Fika. They're having a discussion about this kingdom being weird. Obelisk means you want to buy a lot of things, and Herald is usually a pile that you're okay just click on. So there is not any trashing here, though, so that makes that tough. So we see Obelisk is on Herald. You're kind of okay building up a big stack of Heralds and Merchants and Poachers, and you could work some embassies into there. You gotta hope Herald hits something to give you a village. Pilgrimage lets you get a bunch of those faster. The Herald deck probably wants to play with a bunch of Merchants. And it's probably okay playing with some Shepherds as well. Shepherds increased in value by having this overgrown estate. I think Fika is confusing sheep with goats. Obviously, goats like to eat the overgrown estate. Needs one Herald to hit to make Embassy help Herald hit. Yeah, and obviously Horn of Plenties are a power card. So normally on a kingdom where if you're going with the approach, which I don't like as much, but if you're going with the approach, what's the best card? Then the answer is Horn of Plenty. And Herald is the second best, and they don't align very well. On the 4-3 here, I think I'm opening Shepherd. I might be opening Shepherd Silver. I want exactly 1 silver in the deck, maybe 2 later. Shepherd should draw pretty effectively with the 5 green cards starting in your deck. Oh, there's only 2 green cards starting in your deck. Oops. Yeah. Shepherd with no estates does not make sense. You're right. So the Necropolis does help a little bit. So I guess you're just opening Silver Herald. Yeah, Silver Poacher makes sense as well. And then you're adding a bunch of Heralds, or at least you're adding a Herald or 2. The Farmer's Market seems okay for the plus buy. You're getting a fairly early Pilgrimage to try to gain 3 of those things at once. You could also consider Nomad Camp at some point. Nomad Camp gets top decked. If you really wanted to hit 5, you could open Nomad Camp on the 4. And you could have opened Nomad Camp. And then had a 60% chance of hitting 5. Although this is not a kingdom where I feel like you need to hit 5 particularly hard. So the advantage to Poacher over the Herald early on is that Poacher is giving you a coin, and Herald probably is not going to give you a coin. So here, if that was a Herald, they would have seen the top card of the deck, and the only card it could have been would be Necropolis. So they would have only had 3, so they couldn't have afforded a Herald here. So I think this is the point where you just start cramming as many action cards into your deck as you can and hope the Herald hits them sometimes. Second Poacher is interesting. I'm not quite sure how I feel about second Poacher over Herald. The problem is the Heralds are going to pile, and then the Poacher is going to be bad. That's the fundamental problem that we have going here. Fika is getting a gold. So Fika opened Farmer's Market, Poacher, Gold. That was not on my radar. And Andy gets a Horn of Plenty. Okay, so I'm not really sure what's going on here. Feels like Fika's playing like Farmer's Market money with random poachers. The thing is, Embassy money is one of the most powerful money cards in the game. So if you're going to play money here, I think you want to play Embassy money. I don't want to play money. I'm confused. The Necropolis and the Pasture help Horn of Plenty stuff for whatever that's worth. So maybe getting 1 or 2 Horn of Plenties for the engine deck is okay, because you should be able to get 4 uniques pretty frequently and get a bunch of Heralds. But again, I want a whole bunch of Heralds. I want to get Pilgrimage down so I can pick up 3 things at once, like Herald, Merchant, Poacher all at once, or if you're playing with Horn of Plenties. And then once you've got a bunch of Heralds, you can add some Embassies, and you can play like a real engine here. It doesn't seem impossible to play like a just good normal engine where you have a couple of bad turns where your Heralds reveal copper every time. But in general, you should be able to get enough Herald hits to have some big turns to take advantage of stuff. And once you've got, if your opponent's not touching Heralds and you've got 10 Heralds and 8 Merchants and a couple of Embassies, some Farmer's Markets, and Horn of Plenties, you should be able to get to 8 uniques and have a Horn of Plenty mega turn without much difficult. Okay, that was strange. They bought an estate to trash the hovel instead of the obelisk. Why didn't they just buy, like, Herald is worth more points than that? I don't understand what they're doing. And I don't understand why Fika got the gold either. I'm not really tracking what the strategies are here, so we're just going to kind of commentate. Yes, the embassy makes sense, but they've added a farmer's market and a poacher and a herald. So the embassy is not particularly good in the current state of the deck right now. Okay, so they can even top deck the embassy or top deck something else that's down there. I just don't really want to play the embassy for dead draw and then see my poachers and heralds and stuff missing. And we know Andy doesn't have a silver down there most likely. So like here in this case, I would really strongly think about getting 2 heralds and a pilgrimage. The herald again is probably the best card for making an engine work, and the pilgrimage will let you gain a bunch of things, including a herald next time you play it. Sometimes pilgrimage is difficult to use because often you might just say, well, I'd rather have 2 heralds for 4 than a pilgrimage, which gets me a herald and 2 other things. Oh, they have a pilgrimage already. Then I would take pilgrimage here for merchant poacher. Hop? No, I don't think I want to take pilgrimage until I have a herald in play. Yeah, and again, if you are buying the gold and the silver, then that herald feels bad, right? So this is, if that gold was instead an embassy, then you could now draw because you have an extra action from the herald hitting. They also could play the necropolis and play the embassy for draw. So the gold seemed to me quite premature. I don't know if that was just a case of I have 6. I don't want to buy something that costs less than 6. I know Fika doesn't think like that, but maybe they changed their evaluation of the kingdom after a few turns playing it out. Maybe they didn't realize there was the obelisk pile. Not completely sure. I'm really shocked that like golds and Horn of Plenties and more than 1 silver have gone and were bought before the heralds were touched. And I don't know why the shepherd was bought at all. That made no sense to me. So for me, this is embassy, and then herald. Oh, that was your pilgrimage turn. You could pilgrimage there and get a herald, a merchant, and I guess another Horn of Plenty, and then buy like an embassy. So we're seeing here, like that embassy didn't do a lot, and it revealed 2 action cards that we'd much rather have played. I feel like they're going into the Horn of Plenties early, and their decks, like the deck, you need a ton of action cards with heralds to make this Horn of Plenty stuff work. And here I just get 2 heralds as Andy. And they're going, like, you can lose the Horn of Plenty split 6-4, 7-3 even. The person with 7 Horn of Plenties in their deck will not have enough action cards to play that many Horn of Plenties effectively in the turn. So you can have 4 fewer Horn of Plenties, but they'll all be effective because you've got all the heralds and poachers and merchants in your deck. And you can just keep adding stuff, adding engine pieces, adding more merchants, which basically turn into lost cities, and farmers markets for the plus buy, and embassies for the draw. And I think then your deck can really kick off. But we're seeing now we're going to get into a Horn of Plenty slog where neither player is able to kick off a turn and draw a deck. So the chances of getting a Horn of Plenty mega turn where you gain all the provinces using Horn of Plenty seems very, very low at this point. I played a game like this recently where we had Sinister Plot. I waited until my Sinister Plot was on 6, I think, and took it, started with an 11-card hand, and still couldn't find 8 uniques for my Horn of Plenty mega turn. So it is what it is. Again, if all of these Horn of Plenties were embassies, you could play more Horn of Plenties by drawing more Horn of Plenties and still have more buys and more coins and stuff. So embassies are good, merchants are good, Horn of Plenties are bad, I think is what I'm saying. They seem to think that winning the Horn of Plenty split is a big deal. And there are kingdoms where winning the Horn of Plenty split 6-4 is just game winning because they can threaten a 7-province turn. And if you ever get your 4-province turn, well, they can just gain the other 4 provinces and 3 more duchies. They gained an estate because they bought a shepherd. Because they bought an estate to trash a hovel on a turn where they could have bought a herald. So again, we're seeing the embassy, like, you want more heralds before embassies. This will be the first time that shepherd has seen an estate. It's not clear to me what's happening here. I think I would have considered discarding the Horn of Plenty so I could buy a duchy. So I don't have to trash this Horn of Plenty. The poachers now are real bad too. This is why we didn't want a lot of poachers. I know JCK said they wanted 1 on turn 1, but I was pretty much agreeing with at most 1 poacher in the deck, and then otherwise you want just heralds and merchants and then embassies. And there is no trasher in this game, so it's tough to get an engine to work. But I just don't believe that embassy big money is not doing much better against these decks. Embassy big money is really fast, and pilgrimage can even help it to gain a gold, a silver, and another embassy later on. But the embassy money deck has 4 provinces already. You're right, embassy doesn't get obelisk. I wasn't actually advocating that from the beginning. I was just as a comparison, maybe. But you're right. So here you can play the poacher and discard. I guess you don't play the poacher. Again, this is Andy's big kickoff turn where they can get 2 provinces, I guess, in a duchy. And now they have to hope that yeah, I mean, I get the obelisk points. As I was saying, my ideal deck consists of as many heralds as I can get. This is kind of a remarkable finding all of those green cards, as I think that's almost all the green cards they have. They have 3 uniques in play. They have to watch that a little bit if they want to try provinces here. Yeah, they're not going to have 8 uniques, which is sad. This is only 6 uniques, so they're not even going to be able to gain a single province this turn. Can they win with 4 duchies? Can they just gain? They can tie with 4 duchies, except their first player, so that would be a losing tie. I'm also surprised they got pilgrimage early and never used it, and now the piles are low. So you have more provinces. You have more Horn of Plenties than your opponent by quite a bit. I think I would consider buying a duchy here, and then adding 3 other cards to the deck. Those other cards being like 2 merchants and an embassy, maybe. And then buying a duchy. I might just I might kill a Horn of Plenty because the deck, I might actually trash a Horn of Plenty for a duchy, because then my end state is a deck with 1 fewer Horn of Plenty in it, and I'm trying to play a herald stack. This was also the best possible. This is also the best possible draw with all the greens for Andy. I don't think they can draw that well again, although Fika also had a really nice set of herald hits, so it's possible that these are the 2 best turns we're going to see this whole game, and now we're switching to this green slog. Yeah, I think Andy can take, I guess, duchy, estate, merchant merchant embassy, perhaps. I think they can buy they can gain a duchy here and then buy like merchant estate with their buys. This feels random, like they just were randomly clicking on things a little bit. No offense intended. It's a tough spot, for sure. Fika's going to be able to get another province here, which will probably seal it, because now they can just start getting estates. I would even, as Fika, have considered duchy estate there, to lower the piles, knowing that your opponent can't do that much with their turns. Here, I don't know what you do as Andy. You gain 3 merchants and be sad. But the too many Horn of Plenties in the deck, too many treasures. So similar issue for Fika, but they've added a little bit more money to the deck. I would not have played that Embassy. I do not think they were likely to hit coins in there, given how many action cards they have in the deck. But this one feels pretty much over at this point. I guess there's a lot of points in the farmer's market pile, but they can't even in Horde of Plenty for duchies again. So like, what are you just lowering merchants? Yeah, if I didn't play that, their hand would have Embassy and 2 Heralds in it. Pretty decent chance of flipping over one of these Heralds or one of these 3 actions and getting that Embassy going. Here, they just buy 2 estates, and we're in, as I said, we saw the 2 best turns the decks are capable of, and it's not super inspiring to me. This is why I wanted to have as many Heralds as possible, as many Merchants as possible before going in and the greening. You'd have more obelisk points to offset the VP difference, and your opponent's deck just feels like it completely falls apart. So yeah, we're again seeing Andy's not able to get to at this point to enough uniques to make the things worth anything, and now Fika can just buy the last province, buy the last estate. Sorry, and in the game we're 2 merchants. Yes, that was a weird one, a little bit awkward. I didn't like either of the plans early on, but Swaggy Royal Blacksmith buy, I like it. I think Andy went overboard in the Horns of Plenty when they should have been going overboard on the Heralds, and Heralds are not that good when you have this many other cards. So good game for Fika, and they are in the lead going into their first player, so they've got the potential to win this match on their first player.